So I'm revisiting the gamer cave here from the first video I did shortly after I moved into the new house. There's been a couple of changes. Picture-wise, I think some of the pictures have shifted around. I think that map was still there, but I moved my Shiloh Hornet's Nest print over here. My Ulysses Grant shrine is still there on that wall. Some of these pictures changed. I went to Gettysburg in the interim and got a couple more of these prints. Trying to remember what they are off the top of my head. This is the railroad cut. That's the Union troops from the Iron Brigade charging in on the Confederates who are kind of trapped in this deep railroad cut you can see there, which was too difficult for them to extricate themselves from, and so a lot of prisoners were captured there. Over here, this is Pickett's Charge, and I want to say, yeah, it's Alonzo Cushing's. It's the famous canister at 10 yards or whatever the hell it was called. There's a monument on the battlefield of Alonzo Cushing's battery firing canister, basically at point blank range at the charging Confederates. And then down here is the one that I've had for several years already. The two that I just showed were fairly new. And this is Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain doing the charge of the 20th Maine on Little Round Top. To the storage room, my wife picked me up a Indiana University man cave sign to hang from the door. We both went to IU. That's where we met each other, so I'm always willing to put that kind of stuff up in my gaming space. And then another little Grant picture. That's Grant as president, underrated president. Painting station here. I don't think I had these tables set up last time. I've been working on the Star Wars Rebellion figures. I've started painting, at least got primed and then started painting the stormtroopers, and then primed our little ships and stuff over there, but kind of got interrupted with painting some Gloomhaven figures, which the rest of the little Gloomhaven boxes are sitting there. Table space wise, I've got these IKEA tables that you can move around in any way, and they've sort of settled into this like two larger tables space. This one over here had been more recently used to play Gloomhaven, so it's kind of empty at the moment. But I'm a few weeks away from another session of Gloomhaven with my gaming group, so I took the opportunity to set up Roads to Gettysburg 2, and that's actually the generic rules manual, but there's the specific book, which this is just like friggin' huge because they consolidated for Roads to Gettysburg 2, they consolidated Here Come the Rebels into there also, as well as Rebels in the White House, which was like an addendum published in the Skirmisher magazine in the early days of MMP. So I wanted to do some Gettysburg, and this had just arrived, like a little over a month ago now. So I was excited to put this on the table. So I've got it set up for the first scenario in the Roads to Gettysburg campaign. I skipped Here Come the Rebels because I wanted to get right to Gettysburg, and so I just glossed over Antietam. Well, that's what I've got set up here on one of the main gaming tables, and then I think from last time my dehumidifier moved over here to this corner where I could run the hose out of it and run it directly into the sump pump drain in the supply closet. So there's the wife's workout station, and then our old breakfast nook table. This was the original breakfast nook table that was replaced by this one, and this one's been replaced by our dining room table because we got a new dining room set. So this is actually kind of good though because it's a decent sized table, so it'll be just a little more table space down here, plus all the extra chairs. This little set will end up going to the Goodwill, and then my wife's workout station will probably get moved onto that table, but can easily be moved to the floor in instances where we need extra extra gaming space. So over on this table, this is the game that I've been playing most recently, and this is Battle Above the Clouds, also great campaigns of the American Civil War, just like Roads to Gettysburg 2 over there. This is the Siege of Chattanooga that I've got going here, and it's pretty well advanced at this point. It's not looking good for the Confederates. They are kind of getting outflanked by the Union troops, and Sherman's additional divisions have just arrived, and they're going to focus on hitting the Confederates on their kind of denuded right flank. So I think this one's pretty much wrapping up at this point. I think the Confederates are in too deep of a manpower loss hole at this point to come out of it. But it's been fun. I'd played the Chickamauga battle scenario, but I had not done any of the campaigns on here. And one of them is the Chickamauga campaign. The other is the Siege of Chattanooga campaign. And I've never gamed anything about the Siege of Chattanooga, which is where the Battle Above the Clouds happened. That was the battle on Lookout Mountain. And then also the storming of Missionary Ridge. So those are some kind of cool things. I'd been to the Chattanooga battlefield before, and so wanted to finally get around to gaming this particular campaign, and so it's been pretty fun to do that. Over here, then, I've got a little workstation where I'm punching out the counters for Proud Monster Deluxe from Compass. And then over here, I'm finally getting around to learning Iron and Oak, which is the Civil War naval combat game. And I've got the example of play scenario set up here, and am working my way through the rules, or will be working my way through the rules on that. My games, kind of rearranged the shelves once I figured out that panel up there in the ceiling was not related to airflow or cold air return or anything like that. It's actually an access panel for the exterior water line to my outside water faucet. So if that pipe were to burst or something, it would drop water like all down that left-hand shelf, which, as you can see, is not full of insignificant games. But I originally had my entire Victory Games collection, Avalon Hill collection, and SPI collection. So all of these vintage games would have been right in the line of fire of that water. And I felt like more recent things that were especially like block games, maybe not more, I don't know, could withstand water damage in the GMT ironclad boxes. I put those on the top shelves. I still have obviously some valuable stuff there. There's some older Avalon Hill titles there. I've got Magic Realm and Siege of Jerusalem, and then a couple of expensive decision games like Atlantic Wall and the Totaler Krieg series, as well as all the blocks games. But most of this stuff, like the decision games and all that kind of thing, are all in print and can be, as long as the GMT games, it could all be fairly easily replaced. Magic Realm obviously couldn't, but what are you going to do? Shelf space is limited. So I kind of switch things around to at least get these games over onto a less, there's just the dining room up above there, so there's no water, there's no wet wall, there's no pipes or anything above the rest of my shelves. So that's why I rearranged things a little bit. So it did kind of split the GMT collection up, because most of the GMT games are otherwise on these other shelves. And, I don't know. I tried to turn it sideways, but it's hard to tell if I'll just turn it sideways in the video. So we'll just keep it landscaped. But most of the GMT games are otherwise on the shelf. And I've added some more games since in the, year and a half since I last kind of took a tour of the game room. Although this stuff is mostly unchanged. I think I had all my Victory Games titles before then. I've added a couple of Avalon Hill titles since then. I think I've added Devil's Den, Dragon Pass, Titan, maybe 1776. SPI titles, I believe, are all the same. I haven't gotten any new ones there. Here with the decision games, I think Totaler Krieg has been added. On the Vento Nuovo games down there, I added Bloody Monday. A couple of old Avalon Hill titles. I've gotten Battle of the Bulge since then, the 150th anniversary edition of Gettysburg, and Caesar at Alesia. couple of new Legion games there. The Blenheim title is fairly new. And then on the GMT shelves, I really don't remember. I think probably Pendragon, Falling Sky, maybe Pericles are new. Some more Compass games since then. There's the addition of Proud Monster. Added the couple of the CSS company scale series titles, Saipan and Guam. The Battles from the Age of Reason series is all up to date, with Mulwitz being the new, or Mulwitz being the new title added there. OSG titles, I did get the Napoleon's Quagmire and Napoleon's Resurgence there, the last two on that list. And then here's all the MMP titles. These are all largely unchanged. I had all these, got all those several years ago. The only new things there being Atlanta is ours, and the Roads to Gettysburg 2 there on the end of the Great Campaigns titles. And then I did get the last Blitzkrieg and Baptism by Fire from the Battalion Scale or Battalion Combat series, the BCS. And I'm kind of interested in giving those a try. This stuff mostly unchanged. I think I've added a lot of these Great Battles of History titles. From GMT, I've gotten just about the entire collection now. I think I'm only missing Chariots of Fire. And then, a couple new titles here and there in the GMT collection. Arquebus, the Revolutionary War tri-pack down there. 30 Years War, that was one that I added fairly recently. Down here I did get 3 Days of Gettysburg. A couple more Great Battles of the American Civil War. Added 3 Days of Gettysburg, Gringo, and Twin Peaks there. And then Clash of Giants Civil War. Across the Rappahannock, that's the Glory 2 series. One of the few games that allows you to fight the Battle of Chancellorsville. Up here I tried out, there's Heroes of North Africa from the Lock and Load Combat series. I was kind of interested in trying that, and they had reprinted all those recently. So North Africa being my favorite World War II theater, I thought I'd give that one a try. It's been pretty fun. The old World War I games. Operation Dauntless is a fairly new addition. Maybe, I think I had the No Retreat stuff. Found Gathering Storm at my local FLGS, and they had marked it down to like $40. So I was like, yeah, why not? I'm going to get the space there next to it is reserved for A World at War, which GMT is reprinting, and I had added to the P500 list. So that should be coming in the next month or so. Wing Leader, added that. Wild Blue Yonder, Fields of Fire, Silver Bayonet. A couple of those titles that came highly recommended from the guild. Well, at least Fields of Fire and Silver Bayonet. And Wing Leader. I don't think anybody in the guild has played Wild Blue Yonder, but I did want to give that a try, as it looked like a fairly simple, kind of cool take on World War II air combat. And then down here, some miscellaneous, the new MBT expansions. I found a couple, two of the Third World War titles from GDW, the original, and then Southern Front. I got those at the Gen Con auction, the War Games auction last year, for a fairly decent price. Moved my ASL stuff over to these middle shelves, and I did last year get the Twilight Imperium 4th edition at Gen Con. You can see over there, and it came with a couple of promotional prints, so I stuck those in some cheap picture frames and stuck them on the wall, because that was a good place to put them, where I had to use the lower shelves because of the basement window there. That was the other big thing. That I got new basement windows. The original windows that were there were the old metal frame, single pane sliding windows that just had, visible gaps between the two windows where, just literally gaps right to the outside. I had to stuff a bunch of insulation tape in there. And they were less than perfect. So when we got new windows for the rest of the house, we had new windows added to the basement as well. So that's been nice. So these shorter shelves, I stuck some of the non-war game GMT games on there. Lots of rules printouts in those binders, and report covers down there, as well as various magazines and stuff. Although all my magazine games are in that blue file box down there. And you can see the bottom shelf, and I think I addressed this before. The bottom shelf is empty or has mostly lesser value stuff. And there's more magazine games over there. It has lesser value stuff because in Indiana, in a basement, you don't want to put anything on the floor that's of any value to you, just in the off chance your basement floods. We have a new sump pump and a battery backup system, so we're in pretty good shape, but you always want to cover your bases. Even if you've got the best sump pump in the world, there's nothing, catastrophe can always strike and you can still end up with a flooded basement. So you want to keep real valuable stuff off of the bottom shelves. Then Lord of the Rings card game collection there, Star Wars card game collection, a couple of rubber mats. This is the Arkham Horror 4-player mat, which I really like because it just gives lots of play space. And then I took some liquor bottles and put my counter clippings in there. So I've got a bottle of gin that's just full of years and years of counter clippings. And then took this absinthe bottle, and that one's almost full. And then we'll go into the cognac bottle after that. But otherwise, these are like just supplies and stuff like that, dice trays, etc. Over here, then, is the non-wargaming shelves, so it's going to be all the Ameritrash stuff, all the Fantasy Flight Games titles up there, and then miscellaneous. Got some Eklund stuff, High Frontier, Pax Porfiriana. There's Nemo's War there. This is all the kind of stuff that I usually buy at Gen Con, or all my Ameritrash and Euros and stuff like that. You get Time Stories there, Black Orchestra, Fortune and Glory. It's always fun. And of course, one of the prides of my board gaming collection, the Leading Edge Games Aliens there, along with its expansion. Worth a lot of money. Bought it back when it came out, and it's made it with me every move since then. Seventh Continent, that's a Kickstarter, fairly recent Kickstarter, 6 to 8 months ago, something like that. When it came out, went through a second Kickstarter because they sold out of their initial run. Cave Evil, War Cults, Mushroom Eaters, those are all Nate Hayden games that are really just awesome artwork and very unique sort of topics and stuff. There's Gloomhaven, kind of gets its own shelf because the box is so big. And then just assorted other stuff, Viticulture, some of the legendary titles, a couple of the Splatter games, Indonesia and Great Zimbabwe. Caverna, I really like that one. And Time Stories has been a lot of fun too. And then assorted lesser value stuff on the bottom shelf there. But that's kind of the changing storage. I've added more shelves since the last time I did this. So it covers kind of mostly those two walls. And then I think I've added some more tables as well, because we got an IKEA here in Indianapolis last year. So that was kind of cool to finally be able to not have to, order this stuff and have it shipped, or to drive to Cincinnati to the IKEA there. I could just go to the local IKEA and pick some stuff up. So that's where it is. There's this mirror back here behind those chairs. That was a friend of ours, was remodeling his bathroom and had this huge mirror and said, "Oh, you could put it on this wall down here. It'll, create more light in your basement and that sort of thing." So we took it. Haven't had a chance to hang it up yet. Ideally, we want to drywall in the rest of these walls. They're painted white, which is good, but it'd be nice to have actual drywall in there, and then we could hang the mirror there. And the other thing, I think, which I've talked about in my last video, was to see about getting this ceiling dropped on this side to cover up all the vents and everything, and then to put some more lights in over here, because as it is now, like, the corner is very dark. This whole section under the lower portion of the ceiling, or the vent portion of the ceiling, they didn't run any lights back into those corners, so the lights that I have are just the ones that are parallel to the stairs here, so it makes that whole side of the basement darker. Oh yeah, I stuck my Rock of Chickamauga picture back there, and the pictures are sort of confined to the drywall portions of the basement. The rest of this is all concrete that you have to drill into, which is a pain. So that's another reason why we'd wanted to drywall it and then extend those those plugs, those outlets out to the far end of the basement so we can plug more stuff in. So this corner of the basement is still a work in progress, but I've got the rest of it pretty much where I want it to be. Getting the new windows was a nice first step. It feels like a more I don't know, secure, less exposed to the elements room, which you definitely don't want when you're talking about this much cardboard. So anyway, that's a revisit of the gaming space, the evolution of the gaming space. The next video I do, maybe, I don't know, when there's another evolution, if we get around to drywalling in or finishing it more in some other aspect, then I'll probably revisit it again then. But just kind of fun to see how things have changed since we moved in over the years. So thanks for watching.